Hi class, in this video we're going to talk a little bit about the gather pillar, but mostly we're going to do an introduction to MLA style or a citation style. So for the gather pillar of information literacy, again, we're going to find ideas here that overlap with some of the other pillars that we've done and a lot with the evaluate pillar that we're going to talk about next. But what I want to concentrate on for this presentation is the need to cite the information, the different elements of citation. And to do this, I'm going to do an introduction to one of the citation formats, MLA style. So why do we cite sources in the first place, right? One, it makes it easier for your readers to find the sources. You yourself now as a researcher, you want to make your research clear and visible to those people reading it. And so you want to make it clear to them where you found your sources so that they could find the sources using what you've written. In the same way you might do that, you might read an article and say, oh, they quote from this article. I want to look at that article as well. Also, when we all use a consistent style, and we'll talk about a few of the different citation styles in a second, but when we use a consistent style, that way readers know what to expect. They're not surprised by any kind of formatting changes or anything. And that means that they can concentrate on your idea rather than how things are formatted. And the last reason why we cite sources is because it makes you as a writer look credible, right? That you are interested in helping other people through your research, that you want to avoid plagiarism, that you want to make sure to give credit to those people whose resources that you're using. So in this class and in English classes and humanities classes, we use what's called MLA style. MLA stands for the Modern Language Association. All right, and that is like a real group of people who meet together and talk about documentation and make guidelines for documentation. There are other citation styles. The other most common one that you'll probably see is APA, which stands for American Psychological Association. That's mainly used in social sciences and physical sciences. A big difference that you'll see between them, so you know to recognize it easily, is that MLA style, since it deals with a lot of citations of literature and things from the past, it favors the authority, right? It puts the author's name first, and it doesn't necessarily matter what the date of the publication is. With APA style, because it's the sciences, because it's rapidly changing information, they favor the date and the currency of the information. And so in an APA citation, you're going to see the name followed by, in parentheses, the date, both in text and on their works cited page. And so that's the easiest way to tell the difference about whether you're citing an MLA or APA. For this class, we're going to use MLA style because it's what I'm most familiar with as an English teacher, and it makes sense for the kind of writing that we're doing. So for MLA documentation and also APA documentation, there are two parts, the InText citation and the works cited list. So far with annotated bibliographies, we've been mainly concerned with the works cited list or the bibliographic entry, and we haven't talked too much about InText citation. So we'll start with an introduction to that as part of this PowerPoint presentation. I want to also say that MLA style also governs things such as the way the page should be set up. This is an example first page of an MLA essay. You see that in the left corner, it has your name, it has your professor's name, so in the case of our class, my name. It has the class title, so you would put Info 100, and it has the date. All right, and then it will have your last name in the upper right-hand corner, followed by the page number. There'll be a title for the article, and you see no extra spaces or anything in between, and then it just goes into the body of your whatever you're writing. We probably don't need to be super concerned with this in this class because we're going to do a presentation. We're not going to be doing a paper format until we get to the very end of the semester, so I'll review it then. Conventions. I talked a little bit about this in one of the other videos that I did, that big works like books, movies, newspapers use italics. They'll have initial capital letters and title caps, and they'll be put in italics. Things that are found within those bigger works, like an article inside a newspaper or inside a magazine, are put in quotation marks. Right? And generally, MLA style calls for Times New Roman and double spaced, but I'm not so particular about that. Okay, so let's talk about how it works. In the body of your paper, you'll introduce a source with a signal phrase that names the author. If there are page numbers, then you'll put those page numbers after the quote or paraphrase. And then at the end of your paper, you'll have a works cited page. And so the reader will know that that last name that you give with a quote will correspond to an entry on a works cited page that will help them find that publication. The best place to search for information about how to do MLA or how to do works cited pages in MLA is the Purdue OWL website. I think it's the easiest website to use to give examples of different types of sources and how they're cited. But you can also, if you've used them before, use a works cited generator like EasyBib or NoodleBib. And the works cited page comes at the end of your essay. It is exactly what it says in a traditional essay. It lists only the works that you've actually cited within your paper or presentation. A bibliography, which we're doing annotated bibliographies, is a little bit different in that a bibliography will contain all the works you consulted. You might not necessarily quote from them in your paper or presentation. So here's what a works cited page will look like. Note that the words works cited are centered at the top. Each source you see is all the way out at the margin for the top line, and all the other margins are indented. This is called a hanging indent. It is in alphabetical order by the author's last name. If you don't have the author's last name, then you just whatever comes first. So the title would be next in the first letter in the title. So now let's look at an in-text citation. So here's an example. In the article, Education's Hungry Hearts, it's an article, so we have it in quotation mark. Mark Edmondson, a longtime professor of English at University of Virginia, says that what he has noticed in all his years teaching is that the best students and the ones who get the most out of their education are the ones who come to school with the most energy to learn. All right, so you see where I'm using Mark Edmondson's exact words. I have them inside quotation marks. This is called a signal phrase that comes before then, where I'm giving some information about the person that I'm quoting. That helps my reputation as a writer, shows that I'm using good sources. It gives the reader a little bit of background, and so then you put the quotation mark here. If you have a page number, and sometimes you won't have a page number, if it's an electronic document that doesn't have consistent pages, you don't need to put a page number. If it's a PDF document where there are consistent page numbers, or a book or a physical magazine or newspaper, then you would put a page number, and that would come after the quotation mark, and you see the period would come after the parentheses. If there is no page number at all, you don't need to have any of that. You would put your period and end your quotation. All right, again, you'll go to the Purdue OWL website to make sure it is a good place to give you all the information. Different kinds of sources are cited in different ways. And so looking at the Purdue OWL website, we'll let you know how to format. You see there's general formatting, talks about the basics of in-text citation, and then also MLA basic format here. So I'd suggest just spending a little time looking this over. It'll give you kind of a good introduction also to works cited pages. I think that's it. We'll keep working on MLA style. It's one of those things. It's kind of picky with all the different rules. You'll see in citation, there's often make sure you put the comma in the right place, make sure you put the period in the right place. And so the more you do it, the easier it becomes. But I'll also say that I've been teaching it for years, and I always have to look it up and double check, just because it's not always intuitive. All right, I think that's it. Thank you, class. As always, if you have questions, reach out and ask. Thanks. Bye-bye.